许一分多一少，墨色手又在搞你光似牢，你似血雨而来的解药，天不凡尘缺失的心跳，落于人间一笑，有花自一渺渺，似梦绕花里花外扫寂寥，你是不是野火的斜阳，无风闲乱相交的窈窕，题画誓言难描，却顾此不敢惹，花灯着墨香里夜色正妙。交融调的色调，惊艳的刚好，你我云的争吵，烈焰如一秒，自身飘不闪耀，无需一分多一少，墨色手又在搞你光似牢，你似血雨而来的解药，天不凡尘缺失的心跳，落于人间一笑，如花自一渺渺，似梦绕花里花外扫寂寥，你是不是野火的斜阳，无风闲乱相交的窈窕，题画誓言难描，却顾此不敢惹，花灯着墨香里色正妙。
Good morning, everybody. I hope this video finds you well. Today, I want to talk about real fear, real worries, real terror. I want to talk about being afraid. The United States is getting its ducks in a row. It's patently clear to all of us who are geopolitical wonks what's going on. It's patently clear to the Chinese and the Russians. And the impression that I get from those in Washington is they don't care if other people know how transparent they are. They're just plowing ahead like some kind of toddler intent on crossing the street to get that ball. And all of us, we're stuck. There's nothing we can do about it. I'm told by the commander that everything is well in hand. Have you seen what's going on, guys? Have you seen what's going on? Okay, after a fiasco for the United States in and when I mean in the Ukraine, when I mean fiasco, I mean you create a situation to isolate Russia and destroy Russia. That's a fiasco because it didn't happen. The opposite happened. You can argue, well, there's a light, a silver light at the end of the tunnel because Europe is now under the thumb and totally suppressed. It's never going to be a threat to the United States. But you know what? Europe never was going to be a threat to the United States. So that's all pretty silly. And so now it's happening. It's the pivot to Asia, and that terrifies me. Oh, it terrifies me because I'm in China, but that's not so much. It's because I know the Chinese. I'm going to give you a couple of stories. Average guy, you work with him. Nice enough guy. He's just, a nondescript, typical guy, works in your company. He's smart, but not overly so. He's aggressive, but not overly so. He gets the job done. He's just pretty much bland, plain guy. And don't think too much of him. You have a couple of meals with him. He drinks a little bit. All's good. And one day, you're with him, and it's just not drinking or anything, just a regular day. And you go out and you have a meal with him. You and a couple of other co-workers. And he gets a phone call. And he gets really upset. And he just completely loses it. He becomes something else. It takes me and 6 other people to hold him down, and he is just breaking things, fighting with people. He is in this rage. Those of you who have lived in China know what I'm talking about. These average people that are just normal, they just go about their day-to-day life. They're productive, but they're part of something, and then something snaps, and they become something else. That's China.
让月光摇啊摇啊，气氛开始变微妙。当我放慢了步调，橘色路灯闪耀，通往银河隧道，飞船半路抛锚，就坐上流星灯，要踏进喧闹城堡。午夜0.01秒，排队开始的讯号，让月光摇啊摇啊，气氛开始变微妙。当我放慢了步调，你会不会向我靠？在星光摇啊摇啊，左右摇摆的轨道，撞上了你的怀抱，浪漫就即刻生效。星星眨眼睛，听听你的心，轻轻在贴近。星星眨眼睛 ，ring ring 在响铃，我还有下一场舞会。橘色路灯闪耀，通往银河隧道，飞船半路抛锚，就坐上流星灯，要踏进喧闹城堡。午夜0.01秒，排队开始的讯号，让月光摇啊摇啊，气氛开始变微妙。当我放慢了步调，你会不会向我靠？在星光摇啊摇啊，左右摇摆的轨道，撞上了你的怀抱，浪漫就即刻生效。星星眨眼睛，听听你的心，轻轻在贴近。星星眨眼睛 ，ring ring 在响铃，我还有下一场舞会。Boys and girls, welcome to the Starlight Party. No matter who you are, no matter where you are, as long as you want to have an unforgettable night, just come to me. 让月光摇啊摇啊，气氛开始变微妙。当我放慢了步调，你会不会向我靠？在星光摇啊摇啊，左右摇摆的轨道，撞上了你的怀抱，浪漫就即刻生效。摇啊摇啊，气氛开始变微 下雪了，怎么你一闪一闪亮星星，心扑通扑通一直加速跳不停。也许是上天注定才能和你相遇，这是第几次从梦中惊醒，不知不觉红了眼睛。刚下的初雪，街灯都改变，伞突然遮住视线，可是我不敢回头，害怕转过身你不在身后。我好想你，怎么你一闪一闪亮星星，心扑通扑通一直加速跳不停，说不出口的关心，忍不住发的简讯，其实我想把你抱紧。怎么你一闪一闪小星星，指引我们双向奔赴的靠近，我的梦中魂里会有你，为你默默撑伞，一直陪着你。也许是上天注定才能和你相遇，这是第几次从梦中惊醒，不知不觉红了眼睛。刚下的初雪，街灯都改变，伞突然遮住视线，可是我不敢回头，害怕转过身你不在身后。怎么你一闪一闪亮星星，心扑通扑通一直加速跳不停，说不出口的关心，忍不住发的简讯，其实我想把你抱紧。怎么你一闪一闪小星星，指引我们双向奔赴的靠近，我的梦中魂里会有你，为你默默撑伞，一直陪着你。怎么你一闪一闪亮星星，心扑通扑通一直加速跳不停，说不出口的关心，忍不住发的简讯，其实我想把你抱紧。怎么你一闪一闪小星星，指引我们双向奔赴的靠近，我的梦中魂里会有你，为你默默撑伞，一直陪着你。
You could say, well, it's just an isolated incident, except I've seen it over and over again. It doesn't happen every day, certainly, but it does happen. And these events that are transpiring right now are going to trigger that. China's ready for them. China's ready for anything the United States can come up with. Anything and everything. So basically, Biddens are going around with Jake Sullivan, maybe Blinken, but they're going around and they're setting up systems that will exclude China, everything. And they're busy doing this. The impression I have is that a lot of nations are joining these organizations or whatever, and they're trying to be neutral, but the United States is an all-inclusive, you're either with us or against us kind of entity right now. And the strong impression is that things are not as they appear. things are not as they appear, but they appear very, very dangerous. And people say some complainers. Some people say I talk too loud. Some people say I talk too soft. Some people say I use too many mannerisms. Other people say that I'm too staid and I'm not exciting enough. I mean, people, if you don't like it, don't watch it, okay? Jeez. So anyways, Sorry about that. The point is, there's stuff going on right now that's dangerous, and I'm afraid. I'm afraid because I'm a geopolitical wonk and I'm watching this stuff in real time, and I'm afraid because I'm here in China. And all the massaged confidences that I'm getting from the commander, not to worry, things are in hand. It's little bigs, not little bads, not big bads. How can I say this? I guess the only way to say this is to actually just say it. When the commander is talking about little bads, not big bads, the commander is talking about the world as a whole. He's not talking about one particular nation, one particular geographical area. He's talking about one place. He's talking the world. And there will be bads happening in this place. And I'm told not to worry. I don't know why I'm being told not to worry.
I 是来参军的。
I wrote a couple of articles about the Diago report, and I even did a video that was censored on YouTube about it. But you know, the Diago report was a remote viewing of 2025. You know that, right? Those of you who follow the Diago report, who read it. And for those of you who don't know, an organization remote viewed the future back in 2008, 2005. They remote viewed the future for 20 years for economic purposes. What they wanted to do is establish the long duration, the long-term financial and economic situations of the globe and various nations for the purposes of financial investment. If you know that, say, Germany is going to be populous and the stock market's going a certain way and German products are going very well, well then you know that if you invest in German products, it may go up and down, may go up and down, it may go up and down, it may go up and down, but the overall trend is positive. So they set these things up for 20 years in the future. So they did it around 2005. It was published in 2008, I believe. And they remote viewed 2025. And what they discovered fit well with generational turnings that says that there's a conflict. 2025 is after the dust settles. This is after an event. And their information was very disturbing. The GDP and PPP of the United States collapsed to a shadow of its former size. The same is true for Europe. The rest of the world is pretty much fine. There's exceptions like Australia. But all the trends that we're seeing right now that was described in the Diago report are certainly seemingly coming together right now as we speak. A lot of people use this information for investment purposes as well as for planning purposes. And if you can move out of an area that's going to anticipate some kind of financial or economic or societal collapse, I would recommend you do so. The predictions, whether or not they're staid and based upon the boring economic and geopolitical trends, or whether they're actually remote viewed, is up to you to believe. One thing is certain: the actions of this President Biden is frightening. It's of an amazing scope and quite frightening. And I'm a bit terrified of it.
对世界对自我失望过，回避过放弃过遗憾过，现在的我不想再闪躲，就算有人笑我做梦，不想不上来会被选中，不会向命运低头。有希望。不灭的火如果心底现在被触碰，还能有冲动。如果后悔未来，又要去怪谁才不同？就算没有成功，也好过面对到最后。都不喜欢的我，执着的理由我还没听够。若一无所有，向前走，有苦衷不说，只相信应有。燃烧心底最深角落，冲破，对世界对自我失望过，回避过放弃过遗憾过，现在的我不想再闪躲，若白若冰懦弱光荣，多少人生来就被选中，但他们不懂得奋斗，我知道我有痛。冷漠的狂风，就算苦等永恒，总有天冰雪消融。3、2、1，抬起头，用力看看这宇宙。星空下平凡的你会选择怎样活？我要你回头，要你自由，要你冲破牢笼，不怕痛，不认怂，不甘平庸 ，nothing in my world is impossible。敢不敢鼓起奋勇 say come on， 就跟我走。对世界对自我失望过，回避过放弃过遗憾过，现在的我不想再。
implications are that I'm in a safe location. If you were Russia and you were China, what would you do? Seeing everything. You have to be a geopolitical wonk now, but if you're watching all this stuff, what would you do? What would you do? Well, you would take precautions. Would these precautions be only defensive, or would they be offensive? Would they be offensive militarily, defensive militarily, offensive economically, or defensive economically? What would you do? And that's why I'm terrified. I made a number of these videos, talking about the terror, the building up of fear and the movement of these chess pieces, and I am damn nervous about it. I'm damn nervous about it. Even though, China's gone through all these various attempts at starvation and famine, breaking down a trade and all this stuff, Donald Trump's hybrid wars and all kinds of bioweapons, all this and this and this and this and this and this, all kinds of stuff. Even though gone through all that, we're talking about something completely different. And if anybody thinks that America is going to get out of this event that they're creating in a strong way, you're nuts. What the United States is creating right now is a lose situation for the United States, and a very big, big lose for its allies. The whole world, the geopolitical scene, is going to take a ding, but anybody who believes that the United States can thrive or remain intact after the slaughter of what will occur is truly a mentally ill person. And I'm terrified. I am absolutely terrified. I'm terrified. Often when I talk about the threat of China, I get a lot of guffaws from people. They think, oh, what's China going to do? Stop making stuff? Yeah, they'll stop making stuff. Well, what's going to happen? Maybe a couple of ships are going to be dinged. Well, America's got 6,000 nuclear weapons. You don't want to fight a war with China. It's not going to be conventional. Well, it may be conventional initially. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. You're going to hear it first right here. China and Russia will work together and preempt any action. Only Pearl Harbor version 2 is going to be not a strike against a single military force. It'll be full spectrum, economic, social, political, and population damage.
One day you're screaming and laughing loud, the next day you're so cold. One day you're here, one day you're there, one day you care. You're so unfair. Sipping from your cup, turning on and go, holy grail.
Remember Columbine shooting? A couple of kids went over into the school and just shot up a bunch of other kids. Then they killed themselves. Why? Were they crazy? No, because they were bullied for years and years and years. All these school shootings, if you go to the root cause, you're always going to find that little quiet kid who's always being beaten up and bullied. In fact, during the Columbine shooting, the guys went after the football team players that constantly ridiculed them, constantly picked on them, and they shot them dead.
Since we have nothing more to say, let machine guns and cannons talk for us.
Gentlemen,谈判석에서 얻을 수 없는 것을 전장에서 얻을 거라 생각해 절대로 하지도 마.
用不了多长时间，你们还是会回到谈判桌。到时候你们一定会自觉地收回这个厚颜无耻的方案。
洋人看不起我，今年能在战场上。
These idiots in Washington don't realize that when you create a situation and you isolate China and you isolate Russia to where they're not doing business with you, they're not trading with you, they're not communicating with you, and then you think you're going to be able to punch them? There's not going to be a new Cold War, a new Iron Curtain, because the world is too interconnected. There's going to be punishing blows to the United States in one form or the other. It could be military. It will definitely be economic. And it could take other forms as well. You guys have no idea what's coming, but I do, and I'm scared shitless.
It starts with 年少点的烟问你们隔壁是过树冠，店里面的妈妈桑擦的有3段，叫群岛武士老板地铁沙上耍呀加强，印地的功夫最擅长后军统造就主战我该我打开任督二脉，东亚兵分来炸败，已被我出将听看。
You should be too. People don't understand what a juggernaut, an economic juggernaut, China is. How successful and advanced it is, how strong the people are, because you are living in a propaganda bubble. where anything positive about China is hidden. But I'm seeing it. The reason why China has handled COVID so well is because every community is a little fort. Every town is a series of little communities, a series of little forts. It's just these walled up enclosures throughout the entire country, and it's easy to lock down. And so they do it, and they work together. America and the West are like kittens, totally out of control, running all over the place. I really don't know what's going to happen next. I'm constantly being messaged by the commander that all is good, calm down. You can take that as you want. All is good, calm down. All is good, calm down. It's not going to be another Ukraine war. Anybody who thinks that Taiwan's going to be another Ukraine war, they're going to say, well, it's just going to be with Chinese people instead of Russians. Right now, I've got news for you. China owns the Pacific Ocean. And they can flick a switch, just like I've always said. Fear is not a good thing. Fear is not a good thing. And I don't want to show you guys that I'm afraid, but all things combined together are terrifying for me. It's true. And you see, I'm terrified of the geopolitical situation. China and Russia have worked out a system. They saw this coming long in advance. They know what's up. They know the implementation and how things are going to unwind. And they are going to take preemptive actions on various types. Of course, the most obvious would be military, but if I were you guys, I would be terrified of the economic consequences. These neocons, they live in a bubble. They don't see things. They didn't see what would happen in Afghanistan. They didn't see what happened in Kazakhstan. They didn't see what happened in Belarus. They didn't see what or foresaw how Ukraine would pan out. And somehow we're supposed to believe that these neocons are going to be accurate in predicting what's going to happen once they isolate China and Russia. Everything they tried to do didn't turn to gold, it turned to shit. Everything these neocons did has turned to shit. And we're saying, well, America is just fumbling. America's just fumbling. No, there is no leadership. They're just neocons. They're hardcore radicals. And they are going to get bad stuff's going to come. Bad stuff. My guess is it'll be full spectrum, just like the United States under Trump did a hybrid war right across the bat. China's not going to play exactly that same rule book. They'll put a lot more thought behind it by a lot more talented experts, merit-driven experts, not appointed experts. And while the RAND organization that the United States has relied on over the years to provide good planning and strategies, even the RAND reports are saying, no, you don't want to mess with China. No. Read the reports. Read the most recent reports. They're saying, no, don't mess with China. But if you do want to, and for some reason you have to, this is what you should do. That's how they're wording things in RAND. All right, I'm going to put that aside. Let me tell you, don't even think about it, people. You're paying me to give you advice on how to do it. I don't want to do it. I advise you not to fuck with China. That's what I would say. But of course, you know. So let's see. What am I so afraid of? Because right now all I'm doing is I just gave you a bunch of talk about I'm afraid. There's things I'm not allowed to talk about. There's things I cannot say. I can tell you certain things that's always telling me to calm down, don't be so fearful, fear is the mind killer, and all that kind of nonsense, blah, 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 blah. But these people who have control of the United States think they're doing one thing, they're actually doing something else. And maybe our impressions of what they think they're doing are wrong. Whatever it is. Let's consider economic consequences. "99% of all medicines are made in China. They're not made in the United States. There might be a factory in Mexico. That's it. All the products that America imports from Japan and Korea are made in China. Ford, Chrysler, General Motors, all of their replacement parts, their OEM manufactured parts, their car engines, their engine computers, their transmissions, the parts come from China. There may be a transmission factory in your town, but they're using parts from China. All batteries, battery components, all the alloys for metals come from China. So people say, well, we're not going to get fertilizer. Well, we'll make do without fertilizer. People, the food that's grown in the United States are not natural foods. They're developed, and they're GMO developed food plants that rely on a very precise mix of soil and fertilizer to work, to grow. And when it comes together, yeah, you have bountiful harvests. But if you take something out of that equation, holy fuck, you're going to be in big trouble, because food will not grow. What are we looking at? At a Russia-China bloc that suddenly is on the other side of the Iron Curtain. Not a shot is fired. The United States is just going to put a blockade. They're going to put an embargo and going to hurt all the nations that trade with Russia and China. You know, the United States and the nations that are part of this is only like 16 nations out of 300 some. So the United States is just going to be sailing its navy around and threatening the whole world and then starting to sink stuff. When this happens, guys, just economically alone, Russia and China can induce famine, not high prices, not scarcity of items. They can induce starvation in the United States, this big breadbasket of the world. And if you're sick, you cut your finger, and it's turning red on the sides. What are you going to do when you don't have any antibiotics? That red will kill you. You will die, just like they did in the medieval times. You don't have to shoot a single gun. You don't have to launch a single nuclear weapon.
我们刚刚取得了全国的胜利，屁股下面的板凳还没有捂热，但是现在有人要把它抢回去，这个不能答应，就是这个道理。
Americans haven't experienced a real famine, but I tell you, these idiotic leaders that you're dealing with right now are going to give you one. If you think the scarcity on the shelves and whatever is a problem right now, that's because of the fucked up trade supply line. You have another thing coming. Because I will tell you what, if China wanted to put economic pressure on the United States, it would put economic pressure on the United States. And yeah, America's got so much of China's debt. China's been offloading it. China owns a lot inside the United States. You want to nationalize stuff inside the United States that's Chinese? You want to play that game like you did with Russia? China can do that too. Do you know how much profit McDonald's gets, the percentage of McDonald's profit, where it comes from? It's from China. From China. China nationalizes McDonald's. Suddenly, the value of McDonald's goes clunk. Same with General Motors. Same with Pizza Hut. Same with Kentucky Fried Chicken. Same with Motorola. Same with iPhones, Apple, Microsoft, all of them. Thunk. And that's just economic. So I'm showing you ideas of, China is not a bunch of uneducated peasants ready to overthrow their government and being armed with cheaply made AKS weapons. In fact, the weapons that the Chinese use are cutting edge, state of the art, and very, very lethal. And so economically speaking, militarily speaking, everybody throughout the world pretty much recognizes that China is a force to be reckoned with. Because it is. It's a force to be reckoned with. And I'm terrified because I don't think the United States leadership has any idea what they're up against. I asked the commander, what's going on? This strong image always comes to my mind. This image comes to me. And in this image, I get this cocky 6th or 7th grader. A guy, he's kind of a bully in his class. He thinks he's tough shit. And he's talking bad to this really hardcore biker on meth. We don't know what the future holds, and I am constantly being reassured that it's not going to be as bad as I fear. But you know, everything is directed on me, so perhaps my fears are unfounded for me and my family. But what of you who are inside the United States? Well, that might be another story altogether. I recommend prudence. I recommend that you follow my advice on having alternative sources for everything. Don't rely so much on your damn car. Don't rely so much on your grocery store. Don't rely so much on electricity. Don't rely so much on public water. Rely more on walking, bicycling, and going without electricity. Stay away from large urban areas where there's a lot of people. Have a stocked larder. Be part of your community. All these things are good things. All right, now I want to hit the climax of this little talk. And while I've alluded to it throughout the talk, because I'm just talking, I'm going to hit the climax now. I'm afraid. I'm fearful. I'm afraid. I'm fearful. I'm terrified. I'm given messages to say, don't be, don't be, don't be. But at the same time, I'm also getting clear, absolute messages. What's coming for the United States is a sledgehammer. People, take the necessary precautions. I'll continue these video chats and stuff on the website. But I'm telling you, the climax, the entire point of this video right now is to tell you the image that I got, how I communicate what the commander is telling me. If you can imagine a model of the United States made out of clay. You know, you have the little mountains over here and the cities over there. And it's just sitting here, this little clay terrain model of the United States. And it's dry, you know, it's made out of clay, but it's dry. What's coming for the United States is somebody taking a mallet, a big fucking ass mallet, a big sledgehammer, and going BAM on all the cities. Take necessary precautions. Don't be fearful just because I am. And that, people, is the conclusion. Just remember. Be part of a community. Do your best. And at that, guys, I want to end up with my basic words of advice. Be good. Smile. Make a difference in the world that you live in. Be good to dogs, cats. Be helpful. Be the Rufus. Participate. Don't be a spectator. And when the situation calls, take action. And at that, guys, remember,